Hello, everyone. My name is Luis Suarez. I am part of the Detention Watch Network's advocacy team, and I'm going to be going over what is ICE's plan to be able to convert warehouses into immigrant detention. So, as of now, DHS and ICE have actually been scouting, purchasing, and planning to convert 23 warehouses across the country into processing facilities and large-scale immigration detention centers. So, some of these sites would detain up to 1,500 people for those processing sites, and then 10,000 people for those larger immigration detention facilities. And ICE's warehouse expansion would essentially detain up to 92,000 more people, right? And as we speak right now, once again, I just want to highlight a number that Nancy's shared, but there's 70,000 people that are currently detained as we are in that webinar. And this potential expansion can just mean so many much more added capacity to be able to detain people in our communities. If we can go to the next slide. And then just briefly, I also wanted to just share how warehouses is only one part of the system, right, where ICE is detaining people. So historically, we've seen a lot, mainly local, state, and federal jails and prisons be the place where people are detained for civil immigration custody. We also seen a lot of private prisons that are usually operated by GEO or Core Civic, which once again are usually the standard, and it's the place where people are detained. And then this year, or under this administration, we started seeing the reviving of military bases and tent camps as other systems to be able to incarcerate people, right? And warehouses is just another tentacle that ICE is adding to be able to expand massively again their detention capacity. And that's what the focus is going to be on today. If we can go to the next slide. Okay, so there is a pattern in terms of what ICE or DHS is looking for when they're considering opening up a facility, right? So as of now, based on the information that we have been able to gather, we noticed five different things, right? The first one being that they're looking for former industrial or manufacturing buildings. These are buildings that, any company like Amazon would use, as a logistics center or any other type of big manufacturing company. These are warehouses that are built for storage and distribution, so not for human confinement. So these warehouses at all don't mirror any immigration detention facility, right? The other thing is that we're seeing DHS and ICE bypass community oppositions and land use decisions to be able to open up or purchase these facilities. We also noticed that they're near transportation infrastructure. So we've seen a lot of the warehouses that ICE and DHS have scouted. They're usually next to highways. They're usually next pretty close in proximity to airports. And then we recently also just realized that because of the nature of the logistics industry, they're usually around railroad tracks as well. And the last thing that I'll just name is that usually in the past, when we would see detention expansion, we would usually see it near border states, right? Because that's where a lot of the enforcement was happening. I think warehouses is changing that, right? We're starting to see warehouse proposals across the country. So not just around border states or around those enforcement corridors where we would usually see detention expansion happen. If we can go to the next slide. Okay, so what is the state of play, right? So what is currently happening in terms, what has ICE been able to accomplish? And then how have us as community members been able to push back? So just to name that, there is 10 warehouses that have been purchased as of now by ICE. That includes warehouses in the state of Arizona, Georgia, which has multiple warehouses that were purchased there. Pennsylvania that also has multiple warehouses, Maryland, New Jersey, Michigan, Texas, which has multiple ones, and then Utah, right? So there's been 10 different warehouses across the country that have been purchased that are currently trying to be retrofitted to be able to detain people. As of now, there's been rumors of when those facilities will be coming online, right? Initially, they were supposed to be coming online, not all of them, but a few in April. Now that date has changed to May, But those dates also depend on each individual warehouse and what states they're in terms of being ready for detention of people. It's also, once again, it's, you know, uh, really bad news that these warehouses have been purchased. But on the other end, I think one thing that I want to flip is that there's been 11 cancellations of sales of warehouses, right? And I'm gonna go over like, a variety of reasons why they're being canceled. But just once again, I want to share that, this is a huge win for local advocates who've been on the ground pushing back against the warehouses, targeting their local elected officials, targeting sellers and developers, and anybody they can, right, to be able to make sure that these warehouses don't become a reality. The last thing that I just want to name is there's still some prospective warehouses that are being considered, and I'll share those states in case you're in those states. But in Oklahoma, Florida, additional ones in Texas, Louisiana, New York, and New Hampshire. And once again, I would just want people to stay really vigilant, right? Because as we continue to win and cancel warehouses in one state, ICE might try to go ahead and scout in other states, right? So just so for folks are aware of what's happening in their community. If we can go to the next slide. Okay. So once again, like I named, there's been 11 cancellations of warehouses across the country, and this has been a result of local community organizing. And I just want to name four different themes that keep on popping up of why some of these cancellations happen. The first one being the rapid public pressure. So as soon as local communities have noticed that DHS is, doing tours or conducting assessments, filing any type of paperwork on the local end, community has been able to mobilize really fast and just, scream and share their opposition for the warehouses in their communities. And I think that has been really instrumental in being able to close or stop some of those cells from going through. The second way that folks have been able to push back, it's through local legislation and zoning action. So we've seen ordinances, resolutions, and then three state bills that are being used to block or restrict projects. So once again, these ordinances usually target zoning, so changing zoning, so ICE is not able to detain people within certain zoning designations. We're seeing the blocking of permits, right? So the blocking of business permits, special conditional use permits for incarceration, and just any type of permit that would prevent the facility from opening up. On the state level, those three states that are passing broader legislation, it's Maryland, Connecticut, and then California has also just recently filed a bill. Um, the third thing that we've seen be really effective is that we've seen direct pressure on sellers and developers. So we noticed that campaigns in Kansas, Minnesota, Virginia, Indiana, and Utah have pushed back against, the owners of the facilities, right? By, sharing what negative impact it would have on their communities. And developers have kind of seen the purchasing of the warehouse as a liability to their company. So we see in a lot of sellers be able to go ahead and walk away from the deal, um, either because of community opposition or because the values of the warehouse owner haven't been in line with ICE, right? And the last thing is that we have also seen state level intervention. So not necessarily through legislation, but we've seen, for example, the Attorney General in Maryland, A.G. Brown, sued DHS and ICE for failing to comply with environmental review and the public process requirements under NEPA. Um, and then just one big, just last key takeaway in terms of what has been working to be able to cancel the sales or slow down the process of these facilities is that early action is really vital. And the second thing is that usually when there is a multi-pronged approach to a local campaign, that's when we've seen those campaigns be effective. That means that we have, we have people on the ground doing a lot of media amplification. We have protests that are happening on the on the local end. We see litigation from local organizations pushing back against some of the warehouses. So when it's a combination of all these things, that's when we've seen some of these campaigns be more effective and cancel some of those warehouses.